Hi folks, Dave, the Honest Audiophile, and this is the iFi Neo iDSD 2, and these are my Honest Audiophile impressions. I want to thank iFi Audio for providing the Neo iDSD 2 for review. To greatly appreciate it. iFi Audio, you rock. Alright, so the iFi Audio Neo iDSD 2, this will set you back $900 from your bank account. It is a DAC preamp headphone amplifier. The iFi Audio Neo iDSD 2 has all sorts of technologies and all sorts of capabilities. A lot of them I'm not going to discuss in this video. So please check out the link that's somewhere here on the screen so that you can get a better idea of all the capabilities of the iFi Neo iDSD 2. They'll explain it a whole lot better than I ever could. So the iFi Audio Neo iDSD 2 comes in this big huge white box, has some branding on it, and we have a high-res sticker. It's gotta sound good. So on the back side you have some specs and information, and then on the inside you get your pretty typical standard iFi Audio unboxing experience. I am not going to show all of that, but I will show you a few of the accessories that iFi sets you up with, as they are very good with giving you everything that you need to get going quickly. So first thing, you get your power supply, which is a iFi iPower wall wart. And then you get a remote control that will control every single setting functionality that you need. And then you get a USB cable, which is rather short. And then you also get some RCA interconnects. Set all that to the back side. So the iFi Audio Neo iDSD 2 is very well built, and it's rather sharp looking, I think. I like the look of it. They give you this little stand that it can sit on, so you can either set it upright on your desk or you can lay it flat. They do provide feet so that it'll just lay flat, or if you just want to use the feet on the bottom side and stand it upright, you can do that as well. The Neo iDSD 2 has this nice little screen. You're going to get all sorts of information on there. Your bit rate, what your gain is, your source, and all that kind of stuff is on here. So it's a really nice little screen. You have a multi-function volume knob, and then you have a power button here in the middle, which is also multi-function. And then you have a four button pattern that controls your input, your XBass, and also your gain. And then you have 4.4 balanced and 1/4 inch output. And then on the back side you have XLR output, RCA output, 3.5 millimeter input, your sync, coaxial, fiber optic, USB, and then your power. iFi has done a good job of laying out the back side of it so that if you have all your wires connected, it stays upright and doesn't wobble around and move. And it's just very well controlled the way that it sits at 916 grams, or roughly about 2 pounds. And then it's about 8.5 inches wide, 6.5 inches deep, and about 1.5 inches tall. It's not a very big device whatsoever. It's not going to take up a whole lot of space on your desk, no matter which way you have it laid. The iFi Audio Neo iDSD 2, it has all sorts of inputs that you're able to use, but the biggest one that's going to set it apart from other devices is that it has Bluetooth APTX Lossless. Now, there is something to note about APTX Lossless, and that is not very many devices have that. And in order to use it, you have to have both a transmitter and a receiver. So if you use Bluetooth and you want to future-proof your device for when everything's kind of running APTX Lossless, then the Neo iDSD 2 may be something to consider. But currently at this time, the devices that use it are pretty rare. But it does all the other Bluetooths if you want. It has Bluetooth 5.1, and you can get APTX adaptive, APTX HD, LDAC, AAC, SBC, and you name it, they have it. And then it also does your other inputs, PCM, coaxial, and fiber optic. So the PCM, you can do up to 32-bit 768, DSD 512, and also full MQA decoding if you're interested in that. The iFi Neo iDSD 2 has some interesting other functions that are added in. iFi always adds in everything along with the kitchen sink, it seems like. And in this case, they added in filters, which you can get the GTO filter, or you can have the Bit Perfect filter, or any of the other filters that are pretty common. And they do make a little bit of a difference to the sound signatures. I found that I prefer the Bit Perfect filter, and that's the one that I stuck with, but all the others I tried out and they all sounded good, but I just prefer Bit Perfect, as it seems to be the most accurate to the recording. All the others kind of are adding in little subtleties here and there. Another thing that iFi has included is XBass, and there's 3 different functions of it. You have the regular XBass, which adds in like the quantity, and you just get a lot of extra bass. And then they have what's called presence, which kind of spaces it out a little bit more and adds in just kind of an overall more airy presentation in the bass, while still giving you some of that thump and extra slam. And then you have XBass presence, and you get a little mixture of both. And then they have XSpace, and XSpace kind of alters the soundstage. You get a little bit wider, deeper, some different depths. Imaging kind of becomes a little bit more focused, but also at times it can kind of mess around with imaging, being it'll push things a little forward when they're not normally that way, or it'll recess things and accentuate various things. And so it's kind of an odd experience. I found that I didn't use XBass or XSpace, but I did mess around with it and test it out. So the Neo iDSD 2 can be used as a headphone amplifier, and you can use it with either the internal DAC or an external via the 3.5 input. And the headphone amplifier does a good job of portraying the differences in DACs, whether you're using the internal one or an external. You can hear differences. And it's very clean, and I had no issues there. But one of the things that was a little bit odd was that iFi says that the Neo iDSD 2 is 5 times more powerful than the original. Now, the original Neo was a little bit lackluster in its headphone output power, and on the specs, iFi claims that the iDSD 2 can do 5,551 milliwatts at 32 ohms balanced, and that it can do 650 milliwatts balanced at 600 ohm. Single-ended wise, it can do 2,832 milliwatts at 32 ohm and 184 milliwatts at 600 ohm. In my testing and in my review process, it has plenty of power, and it drove all my headphones. But one thing that I consistently noticed was that it was higher up on the volume knob than what I expected. And I don't listen very loud. Normally I listen somewhere between 65 and 75 dB, but I was finding that I was turning the volume knob up just to get to my normal listening volumes. And I was anywhere in around number 60 to 70 often on the volume knob. Even though it goes to 100 and there was still plenty of power to give and plenty of headroom, it was just higher than normal. And I was just kind of surprised at that. And it didn't matter if I was using it balanced or single-ended. It always seemed like I was a little bit higher than what I would think I should be on the volume knob. And it just kind of was interesting finding. Did try out the different abilities of the gain. So it has a 4-gain stage. You can go negative 12 for IEMs. You can go 0 dB, 8 plus dB, or 16 plus dB. And even by using the higher gain settings, I still found that the volume was still having to be pushed a little bit more than normal. I don't know if it's something to do with the auto IE match that is causing that or not. I just found it to be a little bit interesting that the volume knob I was pushing a little bit more than I normally do on other devices. I also tried the Neo iDSD2 as a preamp, and you can do it either fixed or variable. I went out to the Shit Audio Vidar speaker amp and used it with my Martin Logan Motion 15s and the Wharfdale D310s, and I found that it was a very pleasurable experience and drove them very well. And I really did enjoy using it as a preamp. I also use it going out to some other external amplifiers like the Mytek Liberty HPA and the Aune S9C Pro, and I found that it worked very well that way in fixed mode. The internal DAC and being able to use that as going out to an amp is a Burr Brown DAC chip. I do not know the exact model. I don't know if it's just one or two quad. I don't know the exact setup, as I wasn't able to find that listed anywhere in the spec sheet. But I do know that's a Burr Brown. And as I said earlier, the Burr Brown is kind of taking this iFi Audio Neo iDSD back to its original roots. And it kind of reminded me of older iFi products like the Black Label. Not quite as thick and warm as a Black Label, but it definitely has a little bit more warmth than the previously more current iFi products like the iPro DSD Signature and a few of the others. It seems to have a little bit more body and a little bit more warmth to it, to the sound, whereas the other ones of the higher flagship signatures seem to have a little bit more of an analytical, neutral lean to it. The bass of the Neo iDSD2 is very nice and impactful and pleasurable, and it has a fun factor to it, and you get some punch and slam and a little bit of kick. You get rumble and grumble into sub bass, and the upper bass has just enough presence there without bleeding into the lower mids. And overall it has good body, nice note weight, things hit hard, and it just is well controlled, but yet at the same time it has good tonality and also very well detailed and resolving. The mids have a pleasurableness about them. They have this little bit of an organic feel to them, and everything just sounds like it's realistic. And it has this note weight that just hits home, but yeah, at the same time it's a little bit on the more musical side and a little bit more fluid and just a little too lush and a little bit soft and smooth, and it's just engaging and relaxing, but yet it doesn't really quite bite and crisp and have an edge to it. It's just pleasurable. Tonality's good and very accurate. You can tell differences between instruments and vocalists, and at the same time it has good details and resolution. And then the treble. The treble extends nicely, but always stays very controlled and has that smooth roundness to it. It doesn't have that crispness, that bite, that edge that you're looking for in an analytical source. And it just seems to be a little bit on leaning more musical than it is analytical, which there's nothing wrong to it. It's very approachable for all and very pleasurable for all, but it just doesn't have that moment of catching you and really driving home the music. It just kind of, let's relax and chill and enjoy the music. Soundstage of the Neo iDSD2 has a nice width to it, and it's very good at portraying different sizes of venues, whether they're small and intimate and cozy or if they were larger. But you never really get that sense of grandness, bigness. It's just kind of, everything just sounds like it should, but you just don't get that wow factor in the width. You have nice depth. You can read into the stage nicely. Things are layered well, and everything is controlled, and it has this approach of being cohesive, but yet it's smooth, and it just kind of all works together, and you don't have that edge and that grinding and that part of music that just kind of makes you go, this sounds accurate. You're missing that little bit. It's buttering it up and just making it a little too smooth and rounded. Detail retrieval is very good. I was rather impressed at how much details you get, and you're not going to miss anything. And then resolution, it does a good job of focusing all the details and giving you all the information and allowing you to pick apart a soundstage and pick apart a track without force feeding it and without being too analytical, too piercing, too forthright. And then tone and timbre is very good. It has this nice naturalism to vocalists and instruments, but at the same time, you kind of lose that bite, that crispiness, that edginess as it just smooths things over, rounds it just a little bit, so it's not fatiguing, and it's not, it just has a smooth, buttery pleasure about it when it comes to the note weight and the notes and the tone and the timbre. It doesn't have that realistic little bits of griminess, so to speak. So the iFi Audio Neo iDSD 2, I like it. I like it a lot. I'm rather impressed by it. And the original, if you compare it to the original, I didn't have them to have side by side, but I do remember quite a bit about the original. And the thing that stood out to me the most was when you're using the DAC, whether you're using the headphone output or using the DAC as an external or with external gear. The DAC of the original Neo had a little bit more of a bite, a little bit more crispness, a little bit more analytical lean to it. And it, even though it was a little bit lighter in note weight, the iDSD 2 is going back to its roots, adding a little bit of that body, a little bit of that warmth, and you kind of lose that little bit of edge and that little bit of connectivity of realism. And then when I compare it to a couple other DACs that I have here on the desk, you have the Aune S9C Pro, and the Aune S9C Pro is several $100s cheaper, even though it's a lot bigger in size and a lot heavier. It can do a lot of the similar things. It doesn't have all the options that iFi has, but you still have a amplifier that is powerful and also powers more things better up to 300 ohm. It doesn't do very well with the higher ohm products, but it seems like it has more power for those devices, 300 ohms and less, than the Neo did, even though the Neo has similar power. And then on top of that, sound-wise, the Aune has a more analytical lean. You get some of that edge, that crisp, that biteness that is lacking with the Neo iDSD 2. And then comparing it to the Mytek Liberty DAC 2, the Liberty DAC 2 is my reference DAC, and it is better resolving, better detailed, has a more accurate representation of stage and depth and layering, and also has a more accurate representation of tone and timbre. It's not quite as thick and lush sounding. You get that little bit of connection to realism and naturalism. So the iFi Audio Neo iDSD 2, it's cute, it's small, it's lightweight, and it has pretty much any connection that you want and any capabilities. Has plenty of power, will power pretty much anything in your collection of headphones, will be able to be used as a preamp fixed variable, has Bluetooth, APTX, Lossless if you care about that, it does MQA and all sorts of other things. But to me, even with all of the stuff that it includes, the iFi Audio Neo iDSD 2 just kind of seems to miss the mark because it's $900, and I have other device that does something very similar in the Aune S9C Pro that's cheaper and sounds slightly more to my liking and preference. So $900 is a reach for me when it comes to the Neo iDSD 2, and if I was going to pay this price, I'd pay the extra money and just get a Mytek Liberty DAC 2. I like the Neo iDSD 2, and it sounds really good. It can do all kinds of things, but to use it as a DAC only, it's overpriced. To use it as an amp only, it's overpriced. And to use it as a preamp only, it's kind of overpriced. And to use it as an all-in-one, it might be the right price for you, but for me, I have other options. It's been Dave, the Honest Audiophile. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Speaking of next video, somewhere on the screen, subscription links, notification bells. If you haven't already, please check those off. Don't forget to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to the video, and check out all the links down below. There's all kinds of information on there regarding how you contact channel, follow channel, support channel. All that kind of stuff is listed down below. Speaking of supporting the channel, I want to thank my supporters through Patreon and YouTube memberships. Thank you very much for all that you provide to the channel. It's much appreciated. And if you're interested in supporting the channel, there's various ways that you can do that through one-time gifts with PayPal and Venmo, or you can support through monthly subscriptions with Patreon and YouTube memberships. Using monthly subscriptions, you can get access to videos early, and also you can get access to my private Discord server. So if you're interested in supporting the channel, it'd be greatly appreciated. Also, lastly, don't forget to check out all the other links. There's all kinds of information on there regarding how you contact channel, follow channel, support channel, and gear recommendations, music recommendations, all kinds of stuff down below. Don't forget to enjoy the music, and that honesty is the best policy.